Captain Han Miso stood on the bridge of the peaceful harvest, watching the stars through the wide viewing window. Her ship was big and slow, filled with grain and vegetables from Earth's colonies. The other crew members called it boring work, but Miso liked the quiet trips between worlds. "Captain," said Park Dae from his station near the back. The young engineer was only 25, but he knew every pipe and wire on the ship. "We're getting a strange signal." Miso walked over to look at his screen. The signal was weak and full of static. "Clean it up," she said. Park Dae's fingers moved quickly over the controls. Slowly, words became clear through the noise. "Help us. Under attack. Coalition station. Dying." The message made Miso's blood run cold. Coalition research stations were supposed to be safe. They were protected by the best shields and weapons the galaxy could make. If someone was attacking one, it meant serious trouble. "Set course for the signal," Miso ordered. Full speed, her crew looked surprised. The peaceful harvest was just a farming ship. They carried food, not weapons. They weren't supposed to fight anyone. "Captain," said her first officer, a nervous man named Lee Jin, "should we call for help? The Coalition has real warships for this kind of thing." Miso shook her head. "By the time they get here, everyone at that station will be dead. We're the only ship close enough to help." The trip took 6 hours. When they arrived at the research station, Miso saw something that made her stomach sick. The station was huge, built to hold thousands of scientists. But now it was broken and burning. Pieces of metal floated in space around it like deadly snow. "What did this?" whispered Park Dae. On the main screen, they could see the attackers. The ships were black and angular, like deadly insects. They moved in perfect formation, firing red beams that cut through the station's armor like it was paper. Miso had never seen ships like these before, but something about them felt familiar in a bad way. "Those are devourer ships," she said quietly. The crew went silent. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about the devourers. They were machines that ate everything in their path. Most people thought they were just legends, stories to scare children. They were supposed to be extinct, gone for thousands of years. "Captain," Lee Jin's voice was shaking, "we need to leave. Now. Our ship has no weapons. We can't fight those things." But Miso was already thinking. She pressed a button on her chair that most of the crew had never seen her use. It was red and hidden under a small metal cover. When she pressed it, screens all over the ship came alive with new information. "Park Dae," she said in a calm voice. "Go to Storage Bay 7. Enter code Alpha 779. You'll find some equipment we need." Park Dae looked confused but followed orders. While he was gone, Miso opened a secure communication channel. She spoke in a language that sounded like Korean but with strange words mixed in. "Silent thunder to all hidden fleet units. Protocol 7 is now active. Repeat, Protocol 7 is active." Across the ship, crew members who had seemed like simple farmers began moving with military precision. They opened hidden panels and pulled out weapons and armor that shouldn't have existed on a farming vessel. Park Dae came back carrying a metal case he had never seen before. "Captain, Storage Bay 7 was full of things, weapons, computers, equipment I don't understand." Miso opened the case. Inside were uniform patches, documents, and a small device that looked like a communicator. She put on a patch that showed her real rank. "Admiral." "Park Dae," she said. "My name is Admiral Han Miso of the Human Defense Fleet. This ship is the heavy cruiser Silent Thunder. For the past 5 years, you have been serving aboard one of humanity's most advanced warships." Park Dae's mouth fell open. But we're farmers. "We carry grain and vegetables." "No," Miso said. "We carry food because that's what the galaxy expects us to do. But this ship has been ready for war since the day it was built." Around them, the ship was changing. Panels slid away to reveal weapon systems. The slow engine suddenly roared to life with hidden power. What had looked like grain storage containers opened to show rows of missiles. "The galaxy thinks humans are weak and quiet," Miso continued. "They think we accepted our place as farmers and miners because we're not smart enough or brave enough to be anything else. They're wrong. We've been quiet because we were waiting." "Waiting for what?" Park Dae asked. Miso pointed at the screen where the devourer ships were still attacking the research station. "Waiting for this. We knew they would come back someday. Every human ship, every colony, every settlement has been preparing for this moment." She turned to her crew, who were now dressed in military uniforms instead of farming clothes. "All stations report ready for combat. Weapons online," called out someone. who had been pretending to be a cook. Shields. At full power, said another. Crew member who had claimed to be a botanist. Engineering. Reports all systems green, said Parkday. Reading from displays that had been hidden minutes before. Miso sat in her captain's chair, but now it looked different too. It was surrounded by controls and screens that hadn't been there when the ship was pretending to be peaceful. The Devourers think they're attacking helpless prey, she said. They think the galaxy is full of weak species that will run away or surrender. They don't know about us. On the screen, one of the Devourer ships noticed the silent thunder and began moving toward it. The machine ship was 3 times larger and covered in weapons. They're scanning us, reported the weapons officer. They're probably confused. Their sensors say we're a farming ship, but we're not running away. Miso smiled for the first time since the crisis began. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a long time for this moment. Let them be confused, she said. Target their main weapons array. Show them what human farmers can do. The silent thunder fired its first shot in anger, and the war for the galaxy began. The first shot from the silent thunder hit the Devourer ship right where Admiral Miso had aimed. The massive enemy vessel shuddered as its main weapon exploded in a ball of fire. For a moment, both ships hung in space as if neither could believe what had just happened. Then chaos erupted. The Devourer ship spun around and fired back with everything it had, but the silent thunder was already moving, sliding sideways in a way that should have been impossible for such a big ship. The enemy's red beams missed by meters. How are we moving like this? Parkday shouted over the noise of the battle. He was strapped into a new station that had appeared from nowhere, surrounded by controls he was somehow learning to use. Gravity manipulation systems, Miso called back. We've had the technology for 30 years. The galaxy thinks we're too stupid to understand advanced physics. Parkday's hands moved over his controls without thinking. It was like the knowledge had always been in his head, just waiting to be unlocked. He realized that everything he thought he knew about human technology was wrong. On the main screen, more Devourer ships were turning away from the research station to face this new threat. There were 12 of them, each one big enough to destroy a planet. Admiral, said the weapons officer, we're getting communications from other human ships. They're dropping their disguises too. Put them on screen, Miso ordered. The display split into multiple windows. Each one showed a different human captain, and each one was revealing the same secret. The grain transport Golden Fields unfolded massive gun batteries. The mining ship Deep Dig launched fighter squadrons from hidden bays. The passenger liner Safe Journey activated shield generators that glowed like small suns. All across this part of space, human ships were throwing away their peaceful disguises and showing their true nature. This is Admiral Song Kira aboard the Iron Harvest, came a voice from the main screen. The woman speaking was older than Miso, with gray hair and cold eyes. All units execute Formation Delta. It's time to show these machines what we learned from studying their last attack. Parkday stared at the screen. Admiral Song Kira? But she's supposed to be dead. The history books say she died in an accident 20 years ago. The history books lie, Miso said simply. Song Kira has been building our secret fleet for decades. Every accident that killed a human military leader was just a way to fake their death so they could work on the real defense of humanity. The human ships moved into formation with a precision that made the Devourer fleet look clumsy. They had practiced this dance for years, waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the coalition government was falling apart. In the great meeting hall on the capital world of Centauri Prime, alien diplomats screamed at each other while their homeworlds burned. Kim Tae sat quietly in the back row, where the human representative was always placed. For 50 years he had played the role of the humble farmer diplomat, speaking softly and asking for nothing. Other species barely noticed him, but today was different. The Devourers have taken 4 more systems, announced the coalition president, a tall blue alien with 6 arms. Our fleets cannot stop them. Their technology is too advanced. We must negotiate, said the representative from the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. Surely we can find a diplomatic solution. You cannot negotiate with machines that eat planets, growled the ambassador from the warrior clans. But our ships are too slow and our weapons too weak. Kim Tae stood up slowly. Every eye in the hall turned to him. This was the first time in decades that the human representative had spoken without being asked a direct question. Honored colleagues, Kim Tae said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. Humanity offers its assistance in this crisis. Several aliens laughed. The president looked annoyed. Human Kim Tae, your species has no military ships. You have no weapons technology. What assistance could you possibly offer? Kim Tae smiled, and for the first time in 50 years, it wasn't a humble, apologetic smile. It was the smile of someone who had been pretending to be weak for a very long time. Mr. President, he said, humanity has been preparing for this day since we first learned of the Devourer's existence. We have ships, weapons, and soldiers ready to fight. Impossible, snorted the warrior clan ambassador. We have inspected your vessels. They are farming ships and cargo haulers. You inspected what we wanted you to see, Kim Tae replied. Did you really think that the species that conquered its own homeworld through war would simply become peaceful farmers because you asked us to? He activated a holographic projector from his sleeve. The air above the assembly filled with images of human ships revealing their true nature. The peaceful Harvest Moon launched fighter squadrons. The mining vessel Rockbreaker fired weapons that could crack asteroids. Transport ships became mobile fortresses. For 150 years, Kim Tae continued, humanity has played the role you assigned us, quiet farmers who asked for nothing and caused no trouble. But we never stopped being what we were before we met you. We never stopped being warriors. The hall erupted in shocked voices, angry shouts, and fearful whispers. But Kim Tae wasn't finished. Every human colony is a fortress, he said, his voice growing stronger. Every farm is a weapons factory. Every transport ship is a warship in disguise. We have been waiting for the Devourers to return because we knew they would. Back in space, the battle was reaching its peak. The Devourer ships had expected easy prey, but they were facing something they had never encountered before. Humans who fought like they meant it. Park Day watched his screens in amazement as the human fleet executed maneuvers that seemed impossible. They moved together like parts of a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. How did we learn to fight like this? He asked Admiral Miso. We studied every war that ever happened, she replied, not taking her eyes off the battle display. Every defeat, every victory, every tactical innovation. While the galaxy grew soft with peace, we remembered that war never truly ends. It just waits. The silent thunder rolled underneath a Devourer ship and fired upward into its unarmored belly. The enemy vessel broke apart like a broken toy. But even as it died, its mechanical brain was sending information to the other ships, learning from its destruction. They're adapting, warned the weapons officer. The remaining ships are changing their tactics. Good, said Miso. Let them adapt. We've been adapting for 150 years. She opened a communication channel to all human ships. All units switched to Formation Gamma. Time to show them what we learned from the HFY War Games. Park Day's eyes widened. The HFY War Games had happened 80 years ago, long before he was born. They were supposed to be friendly competitions between coalition species, just for fun and training. But apparently humans had been taking them very seriously. As the human ships moved into their new formation, Park Day began to understand the truth. Humanity had never stopped preparing for war. Every peaceful year had been spent learning, building, and getting ready for the day when the galaxy would need them to fight. The Devourers were about to learn why that had been a very good idea. 3 weeks after the first battle, the galaxy was learning what human warfare really looked like, and most aliens wished they had never found out. Park Day stood in what used to be called the Agricultural Processing Center of the Silent Thunder, but was now revealed to be the Tactical Command Room. Dozens of screens showed battles happening across 12 star systems. Each screen told the same story. Human ships were winning fights they should have lost. Report from the Kepler Defense, called out a communications officer. Admiral Miso's task force has destroyed 8 Devourer cruisers with no losses. Park Day shook his head in amazement. 6 months ago, he had been a simple engineer who thought his biggest problem was keeping the food storage systems cold. Now he was coordinating battle plans for fleets of disguised warships. How are we doing this? He asked Admiral Song Kira, who had come aboard to oversee the larger strategy. The Devourers have better technology, bigger ships, and they've been fighting for thousands of years. Song Kira, a small woman who had supposedly died in an accident decades ago, smiled grimly. They have better individual technology, she agreed. But they fight like machines. They follow patterns, use standard tactics, and they expect their enemies to do the same. She pointed to a screen showing a battle near the mining world of New Sol. Human ships were moving in ways that seemed random and chaotic, but Park Day could see there was a plan behind it. Humans don't fight fair, Songkira continued. We cheat, we lie, we use psychology as much as weapons. The Devourers can adapt to new technology, but they can't understand why we do things that seem stupid until it's too late. On the screen, a human transport ship appeared to be running away from 3 Devourer fighters. The enemy ships chased it, firing their weapons and trying to destroy what looked like helpless prey. But when they followed the transport around a large asteroid, they found 12 human warships waiting in ambush. They fell for it again, Park Day said, watching the Devourer ships get torn apart. Don't they learn? They learn tactics and technology, Songkira explained. But they don't learn about emotions, fear, pride, or anger. They can't understand that sometimes the smart tactical choice is to do something that looks dumb. The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Songkira, this is Colonel Park Min from New Harmony Colony. The Devourers have found us. Request immediate support. Songkira studied the tactical display. New Harmony was a farming colony with 50,000 human settlers. It was supposed to be defended by nothing more than a few security guards and some mining equipment. Colonel Park Min, what is your defensive status? She asked. All civilians have been moved to the underground shelters, came the reply. Agricultural defense systems are online and ready. We can hold for maybe 6 hours against a full assault force. Park Day looked confused. Agricultural defense systems? What does that mean? Songkira activated another screen that showed New Harmony from orbit. To most observers, it looked like a typical farming colony. Green fields, small towns, and a few industrial buildings. But as Park Day watched, the peaceful scene began to change. What had looked like grain silos opened up to reveal missile launchers. Farm equipment that had been sitting in fields stood up and transformed into armored fighting vehicles. The irrigation canals were actually trenches for defensive positions. Even the farm animals were being herded into bunkers that hadn't existed moments before. Every human colony is a fortress, Songkira said. We've been preparing for 150 years. Did you really think we would build defenseless settlements? The screen showed Devourer ships approaching the colony. They were flying in a standard attack formation, expecting to face helpless farmers. Instead, they flew into the most sophisticated defensive network in the galaxy. Surface-to-space missiles launched from hidden silos. Energy weapons that had been disguised as communication towers opened fire. Fighter spacecraft that had been buried underground launched from concealed hangars. But the most surprising thing was the coordination. Every weapon, every vehicle, every defensive position worked together like parts of a single mind. The colonists weren't just farmers who had been given weapons. They were soldiers who had been pretending to be farmers their whole lives. This is impossible, Park Day whispered, watching the colony's defenses tear apart the Devourer attack force. How long have we been preparing for this? Since the day we joined the coalition, Songkira replied. We knew that someday something would threaten the galaxy. Something too dangerous for the coalition's peaceful approach to handle. We decided to be ready. Another communication came in, this time from Kim Tae on the coalition capital world. Admiral Songkira, the coalition council is demanding answers. They want to know how humanity has hidden so much military capability. What did you tell them? Songkira asked. The truth, Kim Tae replied. That we never trusted galactic peace to last forever. That while they were having diplomatic meetings and trade discussions, we were studying every war in galactic history and learning from it. Park Day could hear angry alien voices in the background of Kim Tae's transmission. The coalition leaders were not happy to learn that one of their member species had been lying to them for over a century. Are they angry that we deceived them, or angry that we were right? Songkira asked. Both, Kim Tae replied. The president is demanding that we share all our military technology with the coalition immediately. The warrior clans are insisting that we put ourselves under their command. The peaceful worlds want us to stop fighting and try to negotiate with the Devourers. Songkira laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Negotiate with machines that eat planets? Fight under the command of species that haven't won a real war in 1,000 years? Share our technology with people who couldn't keep their own world safe? What should I tell them? Kim Tae asked. Tell them the truth, Songkira said. Tell them that humanity will save the galaxy, but we'll do it our way. If they don't like it, they can try to stop us after we finish dealing with the Devourers. Park Day stared at the older woman. Are we really going to fight the coalition too? We're not going to fight anyone who doesn't attack us first, Song Kira replied. But we're also not going to let anyone stop us from doing what needs to be done. The galaxy is in danger, and we're the only species that took the threat seriously enough to prepare for it. On the screens around them, more human victories were being reported. The disguised fleet was winning battles across dozens of systems, using tactics that the Devourers couldn't counter and technology they couldn't understand. But Park Day noticed something troubling. Admiral, the Devourers aren't retreating. They're losing battles, but they keep coming. It's like they don't care about losses. Song Kira nodded grimly. That's because they don't. Each ship that gets destroyed sends all its data back to the main fleet. They're learning from every defeat, studying our tactics, analyzing our technology. So we're actually helping them get stronger? Park Day asked. In the short term, yes, Song Kira admitted. But that's why we've been preparing for 150 years. We didn't just build weapons and ships. We built redundancies, backup plans, and contingency strategies. When they adapt to our current tactics, we'll switch to different ones. When they counter our technology, we'll reveal technology they haven't seen yet. She activated a new screen that showed the true scope of human preparation. Hidden fleets throughout the galaxy were beginning to reveal themselves. Weapons factories that had been disguised as industrial complexes for decades were beginning full production. Entire star systems that the Coalition thought were uninhabited were actually human military bases. The Devourers think they're fighting the human military, Song Kira said, but what they've seen so far is just our advance guard. The real war hasn't even started yet. Park Day felt a chill run down his spine. If what they had seen so far was just the beginning, what would the real war look like? He was about to find out. 6 months into the war, Park Day stood in the ruins of what used to be the Coalition's capital city. Centauri Prime had fallen 3 days ago, despite everything the human fleet had done to save it. The beautiful towers and floating gardens were now twisted metal and burning rubble. We were too late, he said to Admiral Song Kira as they walked through the devastation. Around them, rescue teams searched for survivors among the wreckage. Song Kira's face was grim. The Devourers learned faster than we expected. They adapted to every tactic we used, countered every weapon we deployed, and then they revealed technology that shouldn't exist. Park Day remembered the battle. The Devourers had brought weapons that could tear holes in space itself, ships that could phase in and out of reality, and worst of all, they had learned to copy human tactics and use them against their creators. How many people did we lose? He asked. 12 million on Centauri Prime alone, Song Kira replied. But the Coalition leadership escaped. Kim Tae got them out just before the final attack. They walked past a memorial wall where the names of the dead were being carved in stone. Most of the names were alien, but Park Day could see human names mixed in. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, and civilians who had died trying to protect people, who had once looked down on them as simple farmers. The Coalition species are scared of us now, Park Day said. I heard some of them calling us worse than the Devourers. Song Kira nodded sadly. When you spend your whole civilization trying to avoid war, anyone who's good at fighting looks like a monster. They're not grateful that we're saving them. They're terrified of what we might do after the Devourers are gone. A communication device on Song Kira's belt buzzed. She activated it and Admiral Miso's voice came through, tense with urgency. Song Kira, we have a problem. The Devourers just destroyed the Kepler system. The whole system. They have a weapon that can make stars explode. Park Day felt his blood turn to ice. Kepler had been home to 3 billion people across 7 worlds. Now it was nothing but expanding gas and debris. How? Song Kira asked. We're not sure, Miso replied. But our scientists think they have learned to destabilize stellar cores. If they can do it to one star, they can do it to any star. Song Kira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Colder, more determined. Activate Project Ragnarok, she said. Park Day stared at her. He had heard rumors about Project Ragnarok, whispered conversations between high-ranking officers. It was supposed to be humanity's final option, something so terrible that even the military leaders were afraid of it. Admiral, Miso's voice was shocked. Are you sure? Once we start Ragnarok, there's no going back. The galaxy will never forgive us. The galaxy won't exist if we don't stop the Devourers, Song Kira replied. And if we have to become monsters to save everyone, then that's what we'll be. She turned to Park Day. I need you to go to Earth. There's something there you need to see. The trip to Earth took 2 days on the fastest transport ship in the human fleet. Park Day had never been to humanity's homeworld before. Like most humans born in the colonies, he had always imagined it as a peaceful place of farms and cities. Instead, he found a fortress. Earth's continents were covered with massive industrial complexes that stretched from horizon to horizon. Orbital shipyards surrounded the planet like metal rings, and in the asteroid belt, Park Day could see construction projects so large they made entire moons look small. "Welcome to humanity's real capital," said the transport captain, a woman named Lee Sun. "This is where we've been building our true fleet for the past century." Park Day watched through the ship's window as they approached one of the construction sites. It was a spacecraft, but it was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. The ship was so large that it had its own gravity, its own atmosphere, and its own cities built into its hull. "What is that thing?" he asked. "That's the final answer," Lee Sun replied. "It's a planet killer. Actually, it's a system killer. It can destroy entire star systems if it has to." Park Day felt sick. Why would we build something like that? Because sometimes the only way to save something is to be willing to destroy it completely, Lee Sun said. "The Devourers think they can win by making us too afraid to fight. They're wrong." They docked at a space station near Earth's moon. Song Kira was waiting for them, along with dozens of other high-ranking human officers Park Day had never seen before. Some of them were supposed to be dead, killed in accidents or retired from service. But here they all were, revealed as the true leadership of humanity's secret military. "Park Day," Song Kira said, "I want you to meet the real human government. Not the civilian leaders who negotiate with the coalition, but the people who have been preparing for this war since before you were born." An older man stepped forward. His hair was completely white, and his eyes held the weight of terrible decisions. "I'm General Kim Ho, Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces. I understand you've been asking questions about what we're really fighting for." "I thought we were fighting to save the galaxy," Park Day replied. "We are," General Kim Ho said. "But saving something doesn't always mean preserving it exactly as it was. Sometimes you have to break something in order to fix it." He led Park Day to a viewing window that looked out at the massive construction projects. "The Devourers aren't just trying to conquer the galaxy. They're trying to consume all organic life and turn the universe into a machine. If we let them win, every living thing dies. But if we use weapons like that ship," Park Day pointed at the final answer, "how many innocent people will we kill?" "Fewer than the Devourers will kill if we lose," General Kim Ho replied. "War isn't about choosing between good and evil. It's about choosing between bad and worse." An alarm began sounding throughout the space station. Officers ran to communication stations and screens lit up with incoming messages. "Report," General Kim Ho called out. "Sir, the Devourers just destroyed the Andorian system and the Rigel system. They're targeting inhabited star systems now, not just military targets." Park Day watched the tactical displays in horror. Red marks appeared on the galactic map as entire star systems went dark. Billions of lives ended in moments. They're not trying to conquer anymore, he realized. They're trying to kill everyone. "Now you understand?" Song Kira said quietly. "This isn't a war for territory or resources. This is a war for the right of organic life to exist in this universe, and we're the only species that was prepared to fight it." General Kim Ho turned to his staff. "Begin Operation Cleansing Fire. All fleet commanders are authorized to use any weapons necessary. No restrictions, no limits." "Sir," one of the officers said hesitantly, "that includes authorization for stellar destabilization weapons. We'll be doing the same thing the Devourers are doing." "Yes," General Kim Ho said grimly. "We will, because the only way to stop a monster that's willing to destroy everything is to prove that you're willing to destroy everything too." Park Day understood now why the other species in the galaxy were becoming afraid of humanity. They weren't just fighting the Devourers. They were becoming something just as ruthless, just as willing to use terrible weapons. But as he watched more star systems die on the tactical display, he realized that Song Kira was right. Sometimes saving something meant being willing to become the very thing you were fighting against. The real war was just beginning, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of when the survival of all life was at stake. The final battle took place at the center of the galaxy, where ancient stars burned with the light of creation itself. Park Day stood on the bridge of the final answer, humanity's largest warship, watching as the biggest fleet in galactic history prepared for the last fight of the war. 2 years had passed since the Devourers had begun their campaign to destroy all organic life. Entire sectors of the galaxy were now empty space, their stars extinguished and their worlds consumed. But humanity had responded with weapons and tactics that even they had hoped never to use. Final count, Admiral Miso reported from her flagship. We have 847 human vessels, 312 coalition ships and support craft from 23 different species, against an estimated 2,000 Devourer vessels of unknown capability. Park Day, now wearing the uniform of a fleet engineer, studied the tactical displays. The enemy was waiting for them near the galactic core, where the ancient machines that controlled all Devourers had built their final fortress. Are we really going to win this? He asked Admiral Song Kira, who stood beside him. She looked older now, worn down by 2 years of making impossible decisions. We're going to end it, she replied. Win or lose, this is where it stops. The communication system activated, and Kim Tae's voice came through from the Coalition command ship. All vessels, this is Diplomat Kim Tae speaking for the unified species of the galaxy. Today we fight not as separate peoples but as one alliance against extinction. Park Day smiled grimly. Kim Tae had finally stopped pretending to be the humble human representative. Now he spoke with the authority of someone who had helped coordinate the greatest military operation in galactic history. The enemy has shown us no mercy, Kim Tae continued. They have destroyed worlds, consumed stars, and murdered billions. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated what organic life is willing to do to survive. On the main screen, the Devourer fleet began moving toward them. The enemy ships were larger than anything they had faced before, built from the metal of consumed worlds and powered by the energy of dead stars. All human vessels, came General Kim Ho's voice from Earth. You are authorized to use all weapons, including the ones we hoped we'd never need. Show them what happens when you threaten the existence of life itself. The battle began with humanity's new weapons. Ships fired beams that could tear apart the structure of space itself. Missiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once struck targets that tried to phase out of reality. And at the center of the human formation, the final answer charged its main weapon. But the Devourers had been preparing too. They launched weapons that Park Day couldn't even understand. Devices that seemed to break the laws of physics just by existing. Enemy ships reformed themselves after being destroyed, learning from each attack and becoming stronger. They're adapting faster than ever, reported the weapons officer. Every time we destroy one of their ships, the others become harder to kill. Admiral Song Kira nodded grimly. Then we'll have to destroy them all at once, so fast they can't adapt. She opened a communication channel to every human ship in the fleet. All vessels prepare for Pattern Omega. This is what we've been saving for. Park Day felt his blood run cold. Pattern Omega was the final human battle plan, the one that required sacrificing most of their fleet to ensure victory. It was the option they used when winning was more important than surviving. Admiral, he said quietly, Pattern Omega will kill most of us. I know, Song Kira replied, but it will also kill all of them. And sometimes that's the best trade you can make. Around them, human ships began moving into formation for the final attack. They moved with the precision of people who had trained for this moment their entire lives, knowing they probably wouldn't survive it. The Silent Thunder, Admiral Miso's original ship, led a group of vessels straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. They fired everything they had, drawing the Devourers' attention while other human ships moved into position around them. Miso's group is taking heavy casualties, reported the communications officer. Hold the line. Admiral Miso's voice came through the static of battle. We just need 60 more seconds. But Park Day could see on the tactical display that most of Miso's ships were already gone. The Silent Thunder itself was badly damaged, its hull cracked and its weapons failing. 20 seconds, Song Kira announced to the fleet. Admiral, Park Day said urgently, the Devourers are targeting our main weapon. They've figured out what we're planning. Enemy ships were converging on the final answer, their weapons charging for a coordinated strike that would destroy humanity's most powerful vessel. Song Kira looked at Park Day with sad eyes. Then we'll have to deliver the weapon manually. She activated her personal communicator. This is Admiral Song Kira to all human vessels. I'm taking the final answer into the enemy command structure. When I give the signal, all remaining ships are to jump to minimum safe distance. Park Day realized what she was planning. Admiral, no. If you fly this ship into their command center and detonate the main weapon at close range, everyone aboard dies. Everyone aboard dies anyway if we lose this battle, Songkira replied. At least this way, we take them with us. The massive ship began accelerating toward the center of the Devourer fleet, where the ancient machine mines that controlled the entire enemy force were located. Enemy weapons hammered the Final Answer's shields, but the ship kept moving forward. All crew to escape pods, Songkira ordered. Automated systems will complete the final approach. I'm staying, Park Day said firmly. Someone needs to make sure the weapon activates properly. So am I, said Kim Tae's voice over the communicator. If this is humanity's final moment, we should face it together. One by one, other voices joined them. Admiral Miso from her dying ship, General Kim Ho from Earth, hundreds of human officers and crew members who chose to stay at their posts for the final moment. The Final Answer crashed through the enemy defenses and penetrated deep into the Devourer command structure. Ancient machines that had existed since the universe was young turned their attention to the human ship, trying to stop it before it could complete its mission. Weapon charged and ready, Park Day reported, his hands steady on the controls despite knowing what would happen next. Songkira took one last look at the tactical display, where the surviving human and coalition ships were jumping to safety. It's been an honor serving with all of you, she said to the fleet. Then she pressed the activation button. The weapon didn't just destroy the Devourer command center. It reached into the quantum foundations of reality itself and unraveled the connection between every Devourer machine in the galaxy. Across thousands of star systems, enemy ships simply stopped working as their controlling intelligence was erased from existence. Park Day felt the wave of destruction spreading outward from their position, consuming everything within light years. In his final moment, he understood that they had won. The galaxy was safe. The price of victory was measured in empty space where star systems used to exist, in species that had been driven to extinction, and in the knowledge that the peaceful galaxy of before could never return. When the coalition reformed its government, humans were no longer the quiet farmers who asked for nothing. They were the species that had saved everyone else by becoming something terrible and necessary. Admiral Miso, one of the few high-ranking human survivors, became the first human supreme commander of coalition forces. The peaceful agricultural ships were replaced by openly military vessels. Human colonies became fortress worlds that no enemy would ever again mistake for helpless targets. The galaxy had learned that humanity's silence was never submission, it had been preparation. And now that the preparation was over, the quiet farmers had become the guardians of all organic life. The price of safety was that no one would ever again be able to pretend that war was impossible, that peace was guaranteed, or that someone else would always be there to fight the battles that needed fighting. Humanity had roared, and the echo would shape the galaxy forever.